The internet is in absolute shock right now because two of the biggest voices in media, Joe Rogan and Candace Owens, have both weighed in on the growing storm surrounding Erika Kirk, and their words are setting social media on fire. For months, whispers about Erika's image and influence have rippled through online spaces. But this week the story jumped from rumor threads to the main stage when Rogan and Owens, to people who rarely agree on anything, appeared to land on the same page. They're done with the fake perfection act. Their separate but strikingly similar comments have turned a quiet controversy into a viral reckoning about truth, faith and authenticity in the influencer world. No one expected it. Rogan, known for his blunt honesty and zero-filter takes, dropped his thoughts during a podcast segment that instantly went viral. Then Candace Owens, never one to hold back, echoed the sentiment in her trademark unapologetic style. Within hours, clips of both went everywhere. TikTok edits, Twitter debates, YouTube compilations, and fans couldn't believe what they were hearing. Was this a coordinated call, or did two powerful commentators simply reach the same breaking point with influencer hypocrisy? One thing's certain: when Joe Rogan and Candace Owens speak, the internet listens. Their words have reignited the Erika Kirk conversation and pulled it into the spotlight once again, and tonight, we're breaking down everything they said, why it matters, and how this unexpected tag team just changed the entire tone of the story. Before this wave of online talk, Erika Kirk was best known for her polished image, a Christian speaker, media host, and wife of Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk. Her platforms highlight faith, family, and modern leadership for women, usually framed with elegance and optimism. To her followers, Erika is more than a personality. She represents the fusion of spiritual conviction and media savvy. She's been photographed at charity events, quoted in devotionals, and featured on podcasts about marriage and purpose. That carefully built image is exactly why the latest discussion feels so intense. Supporters point to her as proof that faith-based influence can exist in today's culture. Critics, meanwhile, question whether that world of picture-perfect messaging leaves room for imperfection or honesty. Online forums, gossip pages, and commentary podcasts have been debating her every post, comparing her brand of soft-spoken ministry with the louder, more confrontational style of other infos when names as big as Joe Rogan and Candace Owens comment on authenticity in public life. The internet automatically links the conversation back to figures like Erika Kirk, people whose entire presence rests on the intersection of belief and visibility. Whether fair or not, she's become the reference point in a much larger cultural conversation about what living your faith online really means. Her story now stands at the crossroads of admiration, criticism, and curiosity, and that's what makes her such a lightning rod for discussion. For weeks, Erika Kirk's name had been floating quietly around social media, mostly in small gossip threads and commentary circles, but it only took one spark for everything to ignite again. The spark came when users began resurfacing old clips, podcast quotes, and Instagram posts, weaving them into speculative timelines about what might really be going on. None of it was verified. It was pure digital detective work, the kind that social media thrives on. Screenshots, edits, and whispered "did-you-see-this" moments piled up until her image, once seen as untouchable, was suddenly under a magnifying glass. That's when a much bigger wave hit. Major podcasters and commentators started referencing the broader issue of authenticity among faith-based influencers. And whenever that topic comes up, Erika's name isn't far behind. Joe Rogan mentioned during one of his free-flowing podcast talks that the online world is full of people performing purity instead of practicing it. And even though he didn't name anyone, the internet immediately filled in the blanks. Then Candace Owens, known for her directness, added her voice in a later episode of her own show, talking about how influencer culture turns morality into a marketing plan. Two powerhouse voices, two separate conversations, but fans connected the dots instantly. Within hours, TikTok was flooded with clips splicing Rogan's and Owens's remarks together under titles like they're talking about the same person. YouTube creators jumped in, using phrases such as "Rogan and Owens call out fake faith," while Reddit threads dissected every word. Whether fair or not, the crowd had decided the comments were about Erika. By the weekend, her name was trending again, and the story that had been slowly fading from view was suddenly roaring back to life. Once more, the debate wasn't just about one woman, it was about the entire culture of curated virtue online. The public wanted to know, when does sharing your faith cross over into selling it? And how much of the image we see is real? Those questions became the new fuel of the conversation, turning what started as internet chatter into a full-blown cultural moment. When the topic finally reached the Joe Rogan experience, the conversation changed gears completely. Rogan didn't deliver a dramatic exposé, did what he always does, turned a passing comment into a bigger cultural moment. In one of his long, unscripted discussions about social media culture, he started talking about how easily people can build a flawless online persona while living by a different set of rules offline. He never used names, but his tone was sharp. "There's a difference between preaching values and living them," he said, shaking his head. "The internet rewards pretending." That one remark was enough to set the internet on fire. Fans clipped the 45-second segment, uploaded it to TikTok with captions like "Rogan just called out the hypocrisy in influencer culture, and he's clearly talking about the Erika Kirk drama." Others jumped into the comments arguing that Rogan's point was broader, that he was calling out the performative side of online morality in general, not one specific person. But as always, perception became reality. Once viewers attached Erika's name to the clip, the conversation took off on its own. Commentary channels replayed the moment over and over, analyzing his tone, pausing the video midst, debating whether it was sarcasm or sincerity. Some praised Rogan for daring to challenge what they called the church of influencer culture, while others criticized him for fueling gossip he never directly addressed. Regardless of which side you were on, the clip became impossible to ignore. What made Rogan's take so effective was that he didn't sound angry, he sounded tired. It was the voice of someone who's seen too many social media personalities rise and fall over the same pattern: preach perfection, get caught in contradiction, disappear for a while, then rebrand. His frustration resonated with millions who've watched the cycle repeat for years. And even though he never once said Erika Kirk, the internet had already written its own headline. In a single, unscripted comment, Rogan managed to do what no gossip page could: turn a rumor into a reflection. His critique wasn't just about it was about the culture that creates them. And that's exactly why his words hit harder than any tabloid headline ever could. Just when the internet thought the storm couldn't get any louder, Candace Owens stepped in, and that's when things truly exploded. Known for her no-filter honesty and sharp commentary, Candace doesn't tiptoe around controversy. She kicks the door wide open. During a recent episode of her podcast, she addressed what she called the performance problem in modern influencer culture, where people sell morality as a product, but crumble when it comes to accountability. Her tone was unapologetic. She said, "If your faith is real, you don't need filters and photo ops to prove it." And that line hit the internet like lightning. Fans immediately drew connections between her words and the online chatter surrounding Erika Kirk. Within hours, clips of her speech were everywhere, side by side with Rogan's remarks, under captions like "Candace and Rogan just said the same thing." Unlike Rogan's calm reflection, Candace's delivery was pure fire, passionate, direct, and impossible to ignore. She talked about how audiences are growing tired of curated holiness and influencers who live in glass houses but throw stones at everyone else. While she never said Erika's name, the overlap in timing and tone made it clear to fans what or who they believed she was referring to. Commentators quickly picked up on the moment, calling it the conservative crossover no one saw coming. Some viewers applauded her for speaking truth to power, calling her message the reality check the influencer world needed. Others accused her of stirring the pot and reigniting unnecessary drama. But the truth is, this was classic Candace. She didn't need to name names. She just had to speak the truth as she saw it. Her words gave the controversy new life. Suddenly, it wasn't just an online rumor anymore. It was a full-blown debate led by two of the loudest voices in modern media. Together, Rogan and Owens had turned what began as whispers into a viral conversation about truth, faith, and the cost of living your life under the spotlight. Candace Owens didn't join the conversation, she redefined it. And for Erika Kirk, that meant her name wasn't just trending anymore. It was now a talking point in the biggest cultural dialogue about authenticity and integrity the internet had seen all month. The moment Joe Rogan and Candace Owens' comments started circulating side by side, the internet lost its mind. You couldn't open TikTok X or YouTube without seeing clips spliced together. Dramatic music added, and captions screaming things like "they're both calling her out," or "Rogan plus Candace equals truth bomb." Within hours, Erika Kirk was trending again, and this time, it wasn't just conservative followers paying attention. The story had gone mainstream. Fans were completely divided. On one side were those cheering Rogan and Candace for saying what everyone else was afraid to say. They called the duo the Truth Team, praising them for breaking through what they described as a wall of fake positivity and influencer perfection. Comments flooded in. Finally, someone's exposing this. Candace just said what we were all thinking. And Rogan doesn't lie, he just calls it like it is. But on the other side, a tidal wave of defenders rose up, accusing both commentators of fueling gossip and attacking a woman of faith without naming her. This is character assassination disguised as honesty, one user wrote on X, while another added, people are projecting their own anger onto Erika Kirk, and it's not fair. The debate turned into a digital battlefield, with entire threads dedicated to defending or dissecting Erika's character. Then came the fan edits, emotional montages of Erika's old speeches about faith and family, set to soft piano music, with captions like "People forget she's human too." Others, however, created reaction mashups where Rogan's and Owens's quotes played over clips of influencer culture, turning the whole thing into a symbolic wake-up call. YouTube commentary channels and TikTok creators jumped in immediately. Some framed it as the biggest influencer reckoning of the year. Others accused audiences of reading too deeply into things that might not even be connected. The irony: the more people debated whether Rogan and Candace meant Erika specifically, the more her name stayed trending. By the end of the week, the situation had turned into something much bigger than the people involved. It wasn't just about Erika Kirk anymore, it was about everyone who has ever tried to build a moral image online. The entire influencer world suddenly looked nervous. And as the dust continued to rise, one question kept echoing across comment sections and podcasts alike. If Joe Rogan and Candace Owens are both calling it out, maybe there's more truth in this than anyone wants to admit. When viewers lined up Rogan's and Owens's clips next to each other, the similarities were uncanny. Both had been talking about the same broader theme: authenticity in influencer culture, and both used phrases that sounded painfully familiar to anyone who's followed the online faith on fame scene. Joe Rogan, in a segment that's now been reshared thousands of times, spoke about the danger of turning virtue into a brand. He said, "You can build an entire career on the appearance of morality, but the truth always leaks out." The internet immediately latched onto that line, replaying it with slow motion edits and captions connecting it to Erika Kirk's situation. Rogan never mentioned her by name, but the timing was enough for speculation to run wild. Candace Owens' version of the message came a few days later. Equally pointed, but in her fiery tone. "People want to sell righteousness like it's merch," she said during her show. But the moment real accountability shows up, the silence is deafening. Fans clipped those words, paired them with Rogan's soundbite, and declared that the two commentators had just tag-teamed the truth. Whether that connection was fair or not didn't matter. The narrative took on a life of its own. Viewers began stitching the quotes together in TikTok edits titled "The Hypocrisy Exposed," overlaying Erika's past conference appearances with Rogan's and Owens's audio. Others made more thoughtful videos, arguing that both hosts were talking about a bigger issue: the pressure public figures faced to look flawless while living under constant scrutiny. Media outlets picked up on the phenomenon, calling it the unspoken collaboration that broke the internet. Still, both Rogan and Owens stayed silent afterward, neither confirming nor denying who their words were about. In a way, that silence kept the mystery alive. And that mystery is what made the story viral. Once the clips of Joe Rogan and Candace Owens started circulating, the rest of the media world jumped in like it had been waiting for a cue. Within 24 hours, headlines appeared everywhere. Rogan and Owens call out influencer culture. Are the big voices of podcasting turning on faith-based branding? And the inevitable: is Erika Kirk the hidden target? Even though neither Rogan nor Owens had named names, speculation filled the gaps, and that speculation was more powerful than any confirmed statement could have been. YouTube commentary channels rolled out full-length breakdowns with titles like "Rogan Times Owens equals the truth about influencer faith," while TikTok creators spliced together every quote, adding dramatic text overlays, slow-motion zooms, and ominous music. Each new remix pulled millions of views, creating a feedback loop where outrage fueled algorithms and algorithms amplified outrage. Mainstream news sites joined in next, trying to intellectualize the drama. Some treated the viral moment as a sociology case study, proof of how audiences crave authenticity. Others treated it as entertainment, writing tongue-in-cheek pieces about the week everyone suddenly became an ethics expert. Faith-based publications added yet another layer, debating whether these conversations were healthy accountability or public shaming disguised as commentary. Through it all, Erika Kirk herself stayed silent online, which only amplified curiosity. Every new silence became a headline. Erika Kirk declines to comment. No response yet from TPUSA figures. The quiet turned into its own kind of noise. By the end of the week, the story wasn't just a trend, it was a cycle. Rogan and Owens had thrown a single stone into the digital pond, and the ripples had reached every corner of media culture. Podcasts debated their motives, journalists questioned influencer ethics, and fans everywhere argued about where transparency ends and gossip begins. The echo was louder than the original statement, and it showed just how easily a few unscripted words can reshape an entire online narrative. Once the noise died down enough to breathe, something bigger became clear. This wasn't really about one influencer or even about a pair of podcasts. It was about the tension between faith, image, and public truth, attention that defines so much of online culture today. The reason Joe Rogan and Candace Owens' words hit so hard was because they didn't sound like gossip, they sounded like frustration with a system that rewards image over integrity. Audiences weren't just watching a drama unfold, they were confronting their own fascination with polished, perfect personas for years. Social media platforms have rewarded the appearance of goodness, glossy curated family photos, quotes about humility posted from luxury retreats. It's a formula that sells. But as more people start questioning the gap between influence and authenticity, cracks begin to show. When public figures talk about faith, every caption becomes evidence, every silence becomes suspicion, and every rumor becomes a referendum on morality itself. That's why these conversations go viral. They're not only about the subject, they're about us in that light. The Rogan-Owens overlap became a cultural checkpoint. Their comments reminded everyone that faith isn't a filter and integrity can't be photoshopped. For believers, it was a wake-up call to value consistency over branding. For skeptics, it confirms suspicions that online virtue is often just another marketing strategy. And for Erika Kirk, fairly or not, it positioned her as the face of a much wider discussion about authenticity in the spotlight. The bigger picture isn't about who's guilty or innocent. It's about how easily the internet turns moral questions into entertainment, how algorithms monetize outrage, and how truth itself becomes content. The story has become a mirror, reflecting a digital world where even sincerity is judged by engagement metrics. And that's the paradox that keeps people watching. We crave truth, but we can't look away from spectacle. When the clips finally stopped trending and the hashtags began to fade, what remained wasn't a scandal so much as a question. How real is anything we see online? The conversations that Joe Rogan and Candace Owens sparked forced audiences to think about more than Erika Kirk. They forced everyone to confront the price of perfection. Influencers reevaluated how they present their faith. Viewers re-examined why they crave flawless heroes. In the end, the expose wasn't a takedown of one person, it was a mirror held up to a culture that confuses curation with conviction. Erika Kirk has kept her silence. And maybe that's wise. Sometimes quiet is the only way to step out of the noise. Meanwhile, Rogan and Owens have moved on to new topics, leaving behind a digital aftershock that still ripples through comment sections and podcasts alike. The controversy may fade, but the message stays. Authenticity will always outlast algorithms. For fans and followers, the takeaway is simple but uncomfortable. The truth isn't always trending, and integrity doesn't need an audience. What we choose to believe online says as much about us as it does about the people we watch. So what do you think? Did Joe Rogan and Candace Owens shine a light on a real issue? Or did social media twist their words into something bigger than intended? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dive stories where truth, influence, and culture collide. Because this conversation isn't over yet.